Almost 2 years ago, I bought this, a used iPhone 13 from Gazelle. At the time, I didn't want to spend $800 on a new iPhone, so I turned to this, unknown to me, used electronics retailer to save some money. So what was the buying process like? How was the condition? And most importantly, how is it holding up today? Well, all that will be answered in this video, starting off with the buying process. At the time, I was looking at back market for used iPhones, but found that their price was a considerable amount higher than another site called Gazelle. The main difference I found between the sites was that back market supplies an included 1-year warranty on everything they sell, compared to only 1 month with Gazelle. I took a slight risk on that front since I figured most of these used retailers get the iPhones from the same types of places. These are usually from expired phone leases and from other trade-ins. Plus, this phone was only a year old, so problems would be unlikely. With that in mind, I settled with Gazelle on a T-Mobile spec of the base storage iPhone 13 in excellent condition. The excellent status is stated to not have any display marks, but possibly some light imperfections on the rest of the body. But I'll talk more about that part later. Now that I bought the phone, my anxiety started going through the roof after realizing how much money I had spent on a phone. And so I did what any good person would do in that scenario, and I started going on Reddit to look up forums about other people's experiences on Gazelle. As expected, this led me down a rabbit hole of polar opposite opinions. On the strong end, there were many used phones that turned out as expected, or sometimes in better condition than ordered. On the opposite end of the spectrum though, there were a few instances of people who received phones that were blacklisted by their carrier. In other words, that device wasn't fully paid off before being sold to the new owner, and the carrier wouldn't activate it anymore on their network because of that reason. Soon enough though, the package with the phone arrived in a really inconspicuous and unlabeled cardboard box. Lack of fancy presentation aside, the box came with a phone, cable, and some paperwork. Make note though that I didn't say anything about the charging brick. Like many smartphone makers, Gazelle also omits this, but they at least give you a standard lightning cable with it. Turning on the phone, everything seems to be in order, which it thankfully was after further confirming in my case. I also had zero issues with my carrier after popping in my SIM card from my old phone to this T-Mobile variant. I imagine the blacklisting events aren't commonplace, but just a few one-off instances. Now, as far as the exterior of the phone goes, I paid the most attention to the screen as I knew any scratches would be an annoyance the more I keep using it. After looking under a light, I couldn't find anything, so I proceeded to throw on a screen protector over it and look over the rest of the outside. Now, there were some marks on the aluminum side and the back glass, but no dents or cracks or anything major like that. And you have to realize that at the end of the day, most people, including myself, will slap a case over it anyway, so it's not that big of a deal if there's a few light scratches on it. So with that, the outside got my seal of approval, and lastly, I looked over the one internal part that tends to wear out at varying rates: the battery. When received, it was at 95% capacity, and I even found that it had 2 more days left on its factory warranty. That means it wasn't opened up to replace any parts, which I'm happy about. My guess is that this was a trade-in for the then new at the time iPhone 14, since it's unlikely to be on an 11-month contract. Looking at it today, the battery capacity is at 87% with my relatively conservative phone use. 8% over almost 2 years is a pretty good battery degradation rate in my opinion. Over almost 2 years, everything has worked exactly like I'd expect a new phone to. So if everything on paper and in reality checks out, then do I recommend this phone buying auction? I would say yes, as long as these two considerations are being made. Number 1, buy a device that's fairly new. I'd count a 1 to 2 year old device as fitting that category. By going about it this way, you'll be less likely to run into battery degradation issues and other repairs and issues that arise with having an older phone. And number 2, set your expectations lower than you have with a brand new device. You are buying a used phone. And no, you don't get to see the exact model in the photos, that'll be yours. Meaning if there are light marks on it that bother you, be prepared to either accept it or don't buy secondhand. This isn't a brand new phone, so minor imperfections should be expected. But that's why you can get a phone like this that's still working perfectly for nearly 40% off of its new price, and at only a year old. To me, that was well worth the savings, and I think more people should consider these options, especially as many new phones keep getting near or climbing well past the $1,000 mark. If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like so more people on YouTube discover this. If you want to see more tech content, please subscribe to more videos. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time on Tech Device News.